Look out if you knew Peter Nygard or his son Roger Nygaard. Man, you better be looking out. You know, you watch some of these documentaries where they show the different people suspected of pedophilia. What was one of the documentaries that was showing? I think it was on Netflix. I think it was about Epstein. They zoomed right in on this dude. I thought Peter Nygard had been pointed to a couple different times in the past as a suspected sex criminal, suspected pedophile. Say that 5 times fast. You don't want to. But you may if you look at 5 of these. So you can kind of check this out. Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygard, arrested on federal sex trafficking charges. Notice how the media is going to only just say it's sex assault, maybe sex trafficking. He maybe shoved a girl. They're going to downplay. So the best article I could find was actually from the CBC. It says Peter Nygard arrested faces extradition to the United States on sex assault and racketeering charges. You're thinking, okay, well, racketeering and sex charges, that's really just sex trafficking, right? So you get down here, it says Canadian fashion mogul Peter Nygard is in custody in Winnipeg and is facing a 9-count indictment in the United States, so he's getting extradited, on charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, and related crimes. So all of those other articles just said sex assault or sex trafficking or racketeering charges and related crimes. What's related to that, but not already stated? That's odd. What other crimes could there be? So you can go ahead and read this at your will, but I want to go to the better article that kind of gives you a little bit more of an idea as to what's happening here. So the sex trafficking ring taken down wasn't adults, it was children. So Peter Nygard is trafficking children. It says in a huge investigative operation, the FBI and the DOJ under Project Safe Childhood took down a major sex trafficking ring that had been running under a shell corporation for the last 15 years, for at least 15 years. The shell company, Nygaard Group, took advantage of at least dozens, it says, so I mean over 50 at that point then, of teenage girls, and sex trafficked them for employees, business contacts, and CEO Peter Nygard's friends and business associates. So like I said, if you know Peter Nygard, or if you were friends with his son Roger, you should be worried right now. They would physically assault, sexually assault, traffic the girls both internationally and across the United States. Also blatantly lied to and used force to coerce these girls to join the sex trafficking ring. It's just abuse. They're not given a choice. Nygaard Group also had a recruitment network made up of trusted associates. I wonder who they could be. Like I said, if you know Peter Nygard or if you're friends with his son Roger Nygard, you should be worried right now. Who consisted of other girls, Nygaard's group employees, and other girls who were forced against their will to commit the indecent acts. One of the major areas of recruitment was in California. According to the indictment filed by the DOJ, make sure you can see this, the purposes of Peter Nygard, the defendant, and his co-conspirators in the racketeering conspiracy were to use the facade of legitimacy created by their enterprise, as well as the enterprise's business operations, reputation, and resources to facilitate and conceal their sex trafficking, racketeering activity, including sex trafficking, interstate and international transport for purposes of engaging in prostitution and in illegal activities and offenses. Peter Nygard, the defendant, and others, known and unknown. Again, if you know Peter Nygard or are friends with his son Roger Nygard, you should be worried right now. Including employees of the Nygaard Group used fraud, force, coercion, and at least dozens. So, okay, you get the point there. Down here at the bottom, more interesting, to recruit the victims. The defendant and others used a network of trusted employees, girlfriends, and the employees. Many of the victims were initially invited to dinners or parties at Nygaard's residences, particularly in the Bahamas and in Marina del Rey, California, where Nygaard regularly hosted dinner parties and larger so-called pamper parties for female guests. So orgies. He's hosting orgies. Many victims were initially induced, coerced, and forced to have sex with Nygaard through one or more of the following: false promises of modeling or fashion industry jobs, the supply of alcohol or drugs, that's probably a huge one here, I'll give you some smack, including the drugging of drinks without the victim's knowledge. So, okay, well, that's worse. Physical force. If they didn't do any of the first two, if they were smart enough to avoid the first two, they just were pinned down. That's worse. That's the worst one. It's all terrible. There's no stack ranking here, for the record. Following sexual activity, Nygaard typically paid his victims with cash that he assessed through the Nygaard group. In some instances, Nygaard intended these payments to secure their silence. In others, he intended these payments to facilitate further activity that they would, again, through force, fraud, or coercion. So that's all in the indictment. And this says, according to the press release from the Department of Justice, this is now the article, the FBI cooperated with the NYPD to investigate and take down the network. He is charged with racketeering, sex trafficking, and other crimes. All crimes and facts concerning this case are alleged until proven in court, of course. So this is all simply alleged. But Peter Nygard, any of his friends, anyone that knows his son Roger Nygaard, you should be worried right now. Let me know what you think of this video in the comments below. Like this video and share it with people so that they can know this as well and so we can grow this channel. Subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date with what it is that we're talking about here. And then, of course, do everything else that you can do to keep America afloat.